Welcome to the Strength Coach Experience podcast. I'm your host, Joe Lego, and here we go. Welcome everyone to the Strength Coach Experience, episode 12. I want to welcome my very good friend, Joe Tuschak. Me and Joe were together. Joe is a former minor league player with the New York Mets, and now he works with Musser Home Building out in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Joe, so happy you could be on the show, man. It's been a while. I don't think I've seen you since you got married and we were at your wedding, man. Welcome to the show, bro.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah, that was a great night.
Oh my God, it was amazing. All minor leaguers at a wedding. That's a
bad move on my part and Emily's part for inviting that.
Exactly. Yeah, you had a whole minor league team in there.
But it was great.
Exactly.
So, wouldn't trade it for anything.
No, it was a blast. So why don't we jump right into things? Why don't we just go through, early life, growing up, and we'll move on from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started playing baseball, man. I can't even remember whenever I first picked up a bat. My dad was a big sports guy, and so was my mom.
Your dad's a man.
Yeah, he's a trip, that's for sure. He's living his best life right now. So my dad played Division III basketball at Susquehanna University. And then my mom was a gymnast at Slippery Rock University, which is a PSAC school down here in Pennsylvania. Just sports I was always around it, grew up with it. But I first picked up a bat probably around age 4, just in the backyard. We used to have these trees in the back. I think they were just arborvitaes, like huge. They were probably like 15, 20 feet tall. And I used to set it up. And I was a lefty, so I'd set it up as like a green monster, but it was in right field, so I could hit over it. Because back then there was no taking the ball the other way. It was just pull. So I got into it then, and dad would come out.
That's what they do now.
Yeah, yeah. So I got into it then. My dad would come home from work. We'd go outside for hours on time and just play, and just fell in love with the game. I also was a huge soccer player whenever I was younger. So grew up with that. I actually love soccer. That's probably the one sport that I miss the most, is soccer. Just all my friends played soccer. I just was always around them even after I left playing soccer and transitioned to football. So grew up little league, teener ball, high school ball. Started all 4 years at Northern High School, which is in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania. We ended up winning the Pennsylvania AAA State Championship my senior year, which was awesome. It was about 2 weeks after I had gotten drafted. But I guess I'll go back a little bit. So I also played football in high school. I was a starting quarterback my sophomore and junior year, and actually quit my senior year, which didn't sit well with a lot of people in the small town of Dillsburg, PA, but I think it was the right decision for me and my future. And at that time, Coastal Carolina, which is where I was committed to play baseball, had asked me if I would not play football because I had dealt with 2 concussions in the last 2 years, and they just didn't want me to get hurt again. And then we went back to baseball. So our senior year, we won our state championship game, which was awesome. If you would have asked me a week before the season how we would have ended up, and I had said this to one of my buddies, I told him, I was like, I'd be happy if we went 500 this year. Just because there was 3 seniors. We had a lot of young talent in our junior class. But we weren't sure what was going to happen. We didn't know who was going to be our starting pitcher, and it ended up being a kid named Vince Apicella, and he dominated. It was unbelievable. I think he had a .21 ERA through the whole year. He also actually committed and then went to Coastal Carolina for a year and pitched down there, and then transferred out of there. And then it was between him and another guy named Andrew Kern, who played at University of Pittsburgh Johnstown. It was like our 1-2 punch that got us through the whole season, which was absolutely amazing. So that was great. My senior year, I started getting looks from scouts, and I had never thought that that would be an option of getting drafted. I just was like, hey, you know what? I committed to a Division I school. This is great. I'll go there. I'll play baseball. I'll get my education. Getting drafted was never on my radar. Never thought I was good enough. I played on a good travel team that went all over the place in North Carolina, Florida, everywhere, Georgia. But I never had thought like, hey, you know what? That's going to be something that's going to happen for me. There were other guys on the team that I was like, oh yeah, no shot, or no, like they have a shot, a very, very good shot. And a lot of guys did end up getting drafted, and a couple of them are actually in the big leagues right now. So yeah, senior year, started seeing scouts at the games, and I was like, this is weird. I'm not used to this. Played well, a lot better than I thought I would. And then actually on the day that I graduated, I had gotten a call from the New York Mets saying, hey, we're going to pick you in the 6th round. How does that sound? And I was like, what do you mean?
Absolutely.
How does that sound? Yeah, it's a dream come true. I never actually would have thought that this would happen, especially in the 6th round of the Major League Baseball draft. So yeah, that was kind of my journey. It's kind of a shortened version through high school and things like that. But yeah, it was a good journey.
Yeah,
It
no,
was
like
a
I
lot of
said, I
fun.
mean, you got to play a lot of sports, and I've been to Coastal a number of times. They killed us in the regionals a few years ago, but it's a
Yeah.
wonderful place. If nobody, everybody listening's ever been there, it's just amazing. It's a little school, and then you go there, and they just have everything going on, and it's beautiful, and everybody there is so nice and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, who
like I
doesn't
said,
want to go play baseball at the beach? Like, really?
exactly. Yeah. Right next to the beach. But, like I said, talking about how you quit some sports and different things, that's part of the sacrifice that you have to make for some of these things, and
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things I think today, one of the biggest issues is that, kids quit too early. At least you were able to
Yes.
play all the way through your senior year. You played soccer, you played football. I did the same thing. With basketball, I played every sport, and then basketball season was dedicated to basketball season. But right when that was over, and I think that's a thing that continues to go on. And I constantly try to tell parents, play everything. And then when you turn 17,
Yeah.
you can decide whether you want to do anything. But, you playing baseball and just baseball from 11 on, A, you're going to be miserable. B, you're going to burn yourself out. And C, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, you just brought it up. You love soccer, you were all set to go to Coastal. And then, the Mets take you in the 6th round, and scouts started showing up, that senior year. So,
Mm-hmm.
you never really know what's going to take place. So why don't we go through your time in the minor leagues? I was there for a number of years with you, but
Yep.
let's just go through that experience, and let's talk about how was the transition? Going from high school and PA, and then all of a sudden now you're a professional baseball player.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. I had gotten drafted, but I had to wait about a month and a half for my contract to be approved by the commissioner's office. I guess back then, if the certain things were in the contract or some different things like that, it had to go through the commissioner to approve it. So I got drafted on, oh boy, June 6th, I think it was, and I didn't end up leaving until the middle of July. But prior to that, they sent me down in late June for like 4 or 5 days down to Port St. Lucie, Florida.
Oh, what a place!
Had never heard of Port St. Lucie, Florida before in my life.
Either as
And
anybody until you go down there.
yeah, exactly.
I was like, where am I going?
Yeah, or if you drive through it to get to West Palm or Miami, that's whenever you know about Port St. Lucie. So I get down there. I spent 4 or 5 days just going through physicals and didn't pick up a bat or a glove. I had asked them, I was like, should I bring anything? Like, what's going on here? They're like, nope, just pack a suitcase of clothes and you'll be good. I was like, okay, sounds good. That's what I'll do. Hop on a plane, fly down there. I'm there with a guy named Cole Frenzel. You probably remember Cole.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He and I roomed together for those 4 days, and he was in the same boat as me. And we were like, what in the world is going on? Like, we were literally here. We would wake up early, go to the doctors, get MRIs, get X-rays, get more physical labs done, and then we would go to the field and we'd watch GCL games, so Gulf Coast League games.
For those of you that don't know, yeah, exactly. There's about 8 people in the stands. You're on the major. It's like playing little league games.
Yes, and the 8 people in the stands are, well, I guess there's more than that because the whole team comes, but the only fans that are in the stands are parents that are visiting from out of town. Games were at 12 o'clock. We had we had dark blue mesh, like old mesh uniforms. I mean, you'd walk outside, you'd be in the shade, and you could feel your skin burning. So yeah, I was down there, and I was like, man, what in the world did I get myself into? The team was 75% Latin Americans, and I took Spanish 1 and 2 in high school, and I got there, and I had no idea. I was like, oh my goodness, what's going on? Like, what did I get myself into? But over time, obviously, they all welcome you with open arms, and they become your brothers.
Yep,
and it's pretty amazing of how I walked out my last year. I left. Emily and I got married. We went to the Dominican for our honeymoon, and we get to the resort, and I am speaking in full sentences Spanish to everybody that works there. And Emily goes, what in the world? Where did this come from? And I'm like, I just was around it for so long. You just pick up on it. It was absolutely amazing. I wish I still had it. I kind of lost it. But that was an amazing thing. Like getting to know and live and be brothers with guys that were from different countries that I would have never had that experience if I had never gotten drafted. To learn to know their ways and how their culture works. I thought that was an amazing thing, but yeah, like I said, I got drafted, went down there, and then I flew home, and I was like, okay, like, is this really for me? Like, I technically haven't signed my contract yet. I can still go to college. And I had said, no, you know what? Prayed about it, talked to my parents about it, talked to a bunch of people about it. And I was like, no, this is where I should be. So I signed the contract then on middle of July, shipped out again the next day. I was gone until late August. Flew home for about a week or two, and then flew back down to Fort Myers, Florida. We had the old Boston Red Sox training facility for instructs. So another 3 weeks down there, and then I came home for the off season. But it was definitely an eye opener. My first at bat, I remember the first pitch. I was like, "Oh, I'm not sure I actually saw that." That was really fast. Second pitch, 95 square in the spine. And I was like, okay, what am I doing? Can barely breathe.
I think it's what you bring up, it's that culture shock. It's for everybody that's done it and been down there, the same thing for me. I mean, you're living your regular life, and then you go down there and it's completely different. Everybody works differently. Everybody, and regardless that there's a lot of people, I think it's the camaraderie because everybody knows everybody.
Yes.
When you first get down there, it's almost like you arrived at like a camp and nobody, because I don't know what it is. It's probably because we spend so much time together and the coaches and just everybody is just stuck in that, compound for so long that you everybody's your brother, like I said, in that shock. And it's just like, when you first get down there, it's absolutely flooring because you don't know anybody. Everybody else knows each other. Everybody has their own way to do things. Everybody understands the schedule and everybody kind of has their own, routine, and you have to kind of get on it very well. But, I'm sure you'll agree after about 2 weeks, it doesn't take you long at all to acclimate. Everybody's very welcoming. And I will say things, what Joe brought up is, with the Spanish, same thing. I learned how to coach, and I took Spanish as well, but I couldn't, obviously have conversations. But once I got down there, once I got around a lot of guys, I was, coaching in full Spanish. So I think that's the only way to, kind of do it is to immerse yourself in there. But yeah, the biggest point out of that, I think you bring it up great, is that shock. You know, a lot of people think that, you know, you go right to the minor leagues and it's like LSU on TV or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's a completely
No.
different thing. It's a whole other level. I mean, you're an adult and, you know, they just, you know, you're there and you're playing and that's it. You know, it's not this crazy thing. I mean, you know, it's eye opening, but it's not like, oh my God, it's kind of like what just happened, you know, like
Hmm.
where is all this in the video games and on Sports Center, you know, and I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
the thing. They kind of keep that from you and they don't, you know, really talk about that. Why don't we go through your experience, you know, just going into your second year, you know, and once you got acclimated and how things were after that.
Yeah. So my second year came down, or I guess that would have been my first full year technically. So that was my first spring training. And went down there again. It's kind of an eye opener just because a lot of the big league guys would come over from the big league side and get ABs and get rehab or be on a rehab assignment. So it's like, holy cow, I'm playing next to Daniel Murphy. I'm playing next to Johan Santana came over and pitched a bunch. Like it was so cool. Like 6 months ago, a year ago, I was sitting at my house watching these guys play, saying, oh man, those guys are so good. And then before you know it, I'm standing in center field and Johan Santana's pitching. And it's like, whoa, what? Again, like we've been harping on this a lot, but it was definitely a culture. Like it was a shock. Like I was like, oh, man, I was rooting this guy on to win a Cy Young or throw no hitter the year prior to this, and now I'm his center fielder. It was the coolest thing in the world. But yeah, so then second year I ended up staying for extended spring training.
Oh my God.
That's a whole nother animal. For those of you that don't know, it's literally it's exactly what it sounds. It is an extended spring training where you wake up 6 a.m. every day. We got Sundays off, so that was nice.
Yeah. You wake up at 12 and the day's over.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, more of the same. It was wake up early, have practice, play a game, go home. It kind of felt like Groundhog Day after the first couple days or so. And then traveling down to Jupiter, Florida, or up to oh man, where were the Nationals back then? They weren't in.
Kissimmee.
No, that was the Astros.
Oh, they are. I forget. I think
they were up north. Yeah. So just going to those couple of locations literally every single day, or they were coming to us, and it got to a point where it wasn't even like, okay, where am I going today? It was, okay, let me just show up and I'll read the board and I'll figure it out.
Yep.
But then for the season, I got sent to Kingsport, Tennessee. It was actually probably one of my most rocky seasons. I started off really well and then just got burnt out. My body fell apart. Probably didn't do the best job of training that off season. Had just gone off of pretty much what I had done for whenever I was in high school. But it's not the same. Playing probably 140, 50 games in a year compared to the 20, 30 that I played in high school. You got to train a little bit harder for that.
Yeah, I think it's you know, what you just brought up, you know, that's the biggest change. I think that everybody doesn't understand is, you know, college you play, or high school you play 20, college you play 50. You get in the playoffs, you play, you know, or a little less, you know, and then when you get to the minor leagues, you're playing 140 games, you know, and then when you get drafted, you know, especially out of college, you play your 40 games, then you get drafted, then you play a whole season, then they send you down to, you know, instructs, and then, you know, they probably get you back down there in like February. So I think that's the biggest thing that you brought up and you touched on, is that the amount of games, the schedule, and the volume is just so much. You know, it goes from baseball was a thing I did and that's what I do, and then here's all these other things, to now baseball is your thing 15 hours a day, you know, 7 days a week, and it's a real, you know, grind, you know, of every ounce of the word. And I think also you brought up another good point with the training. You know, a lot of people, I think you have to kind of go through it, and
Hmm.
learn how to do it. You can talk to everybody that you want who's been there, but you really won't understand until you kind of find out, I think, how your body responds to that kind of volume and those long days in the hot sun, and I think
Yeah.
that's a big takeaway for anybody listening. When you go into those areas, when you go to the minor leagues, you can do all the research you want, but I don't think it will prepare you. I don't think you can talk to everybody you want, but regardless performance or anything else, it's always going to be, you have to find out what works best for your body to keep you healthy, what works
Hmm.
best for you to perform, and just that sheer volume and just becoming a professional athlete. Why don't we
Yeah.
go to the as go through the minor leagues a little bit more experience.
Yeah. It was. I mean, after that year, I went to Brooklyn,
Best place in the
and
world.
it's where I got to meet you. No, that was a great year. Unfortunately, and as you know, had that nagging hammy injury.
Up turf field, grass to turf happens every time.
Yep. Yeah. I had that and the shin splints that I dealt with a lot, which sound like nothing. And I thought I was being a big baby, but that is not something that's fun. So got injured and really only played like 15 games in that season, 20 games in that season before it happened. And just got shut down. And then I was just going to the field every day and getting rehab with Kiyoshi and then doing some work with you. But yeah, I think that was the year that kind of like the winds got taken out of my sails. It was just so hard watching everybody else play and being the guy that had to sit on the bench every game and go coach first base here or there. It was like, man, I'm supposed to be playing. I'm not supposed to be sitting here. So that kind of hurt me a lot. Um, but yeah, but it was a lot of fun. I always say this um, to my buddies, and that's one stop that I think every minor league player needs to make, because to prepare them for the major leagues, that is a place that does it. I mean, you remember it was what, 5,000-6,000 people a night.
12,000 on Seinfeld night.
Yeah, 12,000 on Seinfeld night. It's a big league atmosphere.
Yep,
That
everybody knows your name. I mean, we have 40, 50 people waiting for autographs. I mean, everybody knows
yeah.
everything about, including me, and I'm a strength coach. I'm not
Hmm.
nothing crazy. They knew where I lived. I mean, they had me sign stuff, and I agree 100%. It's another world. It's like being a professional athlete. I mean,
Yeah.
I always say too, I don't think there's any better place to play. I mean, out of everywhere
No.
I've ever been, big leagues included. I mean, it's just insane. It's just the atmosphere, the wind off the beach, the roller coasters, the people. I mean, July at 9:30 when it's 75 degrees and that breeze is blowing off, right field. I think it's the best place in the world. But I mean, you brought up another a thing with the injury too. I think it's a big deal. Having to go through those things. Especially if you're not somebody that gets injured a lot, it's a hard thing to take in the minor leagues. And I've spoke about it before in other podcasts. I think the hardest thing is that because we play so much, because we play every day, if you tear a hamstring, tweak a finger, something happens, you snap your fingers and you're 3 weeks in, and
Yeah.
as with the revolving door, they bring another person up, and then, that's how it works. And you're kind of, as you said, with the wind out of your sail, you're kind of powerless.
Yeah.
You can do all the work, you can do all the rehab, but they don't really, it's who's next on the thing, even when you come
Hmm.
back, it's always hard things to deal with. So,
Yeah. And that was the hardest thing too. I mean, there was a couple of days where I played and I knew like this isn't going to go on much longer. And I probably should have stopped. But I was like, if I tell them that I'm not feeling good, like that, like I'm done. Like they're going to shut me down. They're going to make me rehab. It's going to take half the season or the whole season. And that's it for the rest of this year. And I played through it for 3 or 4 days. And it got to the point where I was hobbling off the field, on and off the field to get to left field. And of course, we were in the first base dugout, so it was the longest run on the field. And, but yeah, I was like, no, this isn't happening. I would go home, I would go back to the hotel, and I'd be like, all right, let's ice. let's get the little portable stim thing that I had. Let's get that strapped on. Let's do my own rehab. Let's not say anything because I know if I say something, I'm done.
Yep.
And that was the hardest thing, just to know that, hey, this is it's kind of over for
Yeah,
this
no,
year.
of course. And I
And
think you bring up another solid point with, everybody doesn't understand either. That's what happens. If you get hurt and you say something, it's not 2 days, it's 3 weeks, a month, it turns into a big thing almost kind of regardless of what you have going on. So, it makes this thing where guys don't want to talk to the AT, so as a strength coach, you're kind of in the middle there, but it makes for a very hard environment because you're trying to, make a living and pursue your dream. And, if you get hurt though, the athletic trainer is going to shut you down. And it's sad because there are a lot of good people at the ATs, but it's almost somebody you avoid because
mm-hmm.
a lot of them, right away, and not to say that they're not doing their job and it's not a thing, but a lot of times if you say anything is hurt, it's an automatic, week shutdown and stuff like that. And I think that's something that kind of has to change a little bit too, because it's kind of like taking the confidence out of you guys. You're taking away that kind of camaraderie and the closeness that you should have, because I think if, they would establish a better relationship and you could go and say, hey, this hurts, but let's work through it so I don't get shut down
Mm-hmm.
because my job's on the line. I think that would make things a little bit better.
Yeah, and the one thing that nobody ever wanted was to be put on the injury report.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The internal injury report was the place you didn't want your name. I just always had a bad feeling about it. It was like the place where it was almost like getting a pink slip at school.
It's like the land of misfit toys.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh shoot, my name's on that list. I don't want to be on that list. It's like Santa's naughty list. It's like, great, I'm on it. Take it
Yep, no,
off.
it's brutal, man. So why don't we go through, the last season's playing, and then moving on past baseball and
Yeah. Yeah, so my last season was in Columbia, South Carolina with the Columbia Fireflies. That was a lot of fun just because that was the first season there for the Fireflies after
yeah,
leaving
wonderful,
Savannah.
beautiful place over there.
Yeah, for those of you that don't really know where that is or anything and follow Tim Tebow, that's actually the first place where he started playing his minor league career. Last year was in Columbia. I started the year, I wasn't playing much. I kind of said to myself, I was like, if this year doesn't go well, it's probably my last. It was my 6th year, still an A-ball. A lot of the guys that I had gotten drafted with were already either making their way into the big leagues or had already been there for a year or two. So I saw the writing on the wall. So I didn't start playing much. Like I got pulled in right before the first game of the year, and they had said, "Hey Joe, just wanted to let you know you're kind of our 4th outfielder. You're looking at probably playing like twice a week." And I was like, "Oh shoot, like this sucks." And I was like, "You know what? I'm here. I'm gonna stick this out. We're in a new place. Like I don't want to leave." So I stuck it out, and 3 weeks into it, or even less, I was an everyday guy. The guy that was in front of me was playing horribly, ended up getting hurt a little bit. So I became an everyday guy and started crushing the ball. I was seeing it well, just watching borderline pitches go by that were balls. Like I had never felt like I had that type of eye before in my life. One thing that probably really helped was I finally got contacts, which I needed for quite some time. So yeah, I was hitting a couple of home runs here and there, lots of doubles. Made it into the summer, and I was like, guys are going to start getting called up here. Like it would be sweet to make my way up to high A. Didn't get called up. And then on July 2nd, I get a phone call from my mom and said, "Hey, your grandfather was in a bad car accident. Don't think he's going to make it." I was like, oh, shoot. My grandfather was like my best friend. Biggest supporter in the world. He would do anything to come see me play. Multiple times a year. He almost came more than my parents would, he and my grandma.
Wow.
And So he was in a car accident, said he wasn't going to make it. I was like, all right, well, I guess I need to fly home, like, because if he's not going to make it, I got to go home for the funeral. I went home for the funeral. I got home. I was there for like 4 or 5 days, and I got into normal life. And it was like, man, I miss this. Like, Emily, my wife, we grew up 3 houses away from each other. I was there the whole time with her family. I was back with my family. And it was just like, man, I just want this life to, like, I want my life to calm down. I want my life. I want to know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow other than playing baseball. And I came back and I was like, man, I'm not really in this right now. And that was actually the first day I was back. Was the first time I had ever even gotten remotely close to being ejected from a game. I don't know what was going on. I was mouthing off to the ump, swearing at him. It was just a bad game for me. And then after that, I fell. I was hitting like 340, 330, 330, 340 through the first half of the season. I ended the season at like 196. And right then and there, I knew. I was like, hey, you know what? That's it. I'm done. So I was getting ready to call. I was like, all right, tomorrow I'm just going to call Ian Levin and let him know, hey, I'm done. Like, I've had enough. Like, thank you for the opportunity. I think it's time for me to move on in life. And he had actually called me that afternoon and said, hey, Joe. Oh, they can sense it. They know. I'm telling you, I think they're worse than the government. They listen to us through our phones more than I'm just kidding. But yeah, it was like perfect timing, because it was like, man, I didn't know what I was gonna say. I didn't really know how I was gonna do it, and I was like, but Ian called me and he had said, hey, Joe, just wanted to let you know that we're gonna move on. And I was like, hey, this is perfect. I was like, I was about to call you. He's like, oh, okay. So I had gotten done, and Emily and I were getting married that coming January. You were there. And
Yep.
I didn't want to take her and drag her to a place that she had never been before in her life and say, hey, you can like hang here. I got to go away for 7 days. Like, I'll be back. Well, you could get a job somewhere if you wanted to, but who knows? We might have to leave and go somewhere else at the drop of a hat. Like, I don't want to do that to her. That didn't feel right. Especially since we had already been dating for 9 years and 6 of them had been me away. So I was like, it's time for me to commit to her and to our marriage, and to starting our family. So I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had started taking classes at Penn State. And we were down in DC where our brother and sister-in-law live, and he's a lawyer down there. And we were just walking past the White House one day, and he's like, you should try and join the Secret Service. And I looked at him. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, you should give it a shot. I was like, yeah, there's no way that they would ever even think about picking somebody like me. He's like, you could be a uniform division officer, which are the guys that stand out front, just waiting for somebody to jump the fence or to attack. And I said, no, there's no way. There's no way. So I was like, but I'll talk to somebody. So I had reached out to a longtime friend. His name's Mike Reagan. He is a Pennsylvania state senator, former U.S. Marshal here in Pennsylvania. And I just said, hey, what do you think my chances are getting into the Secret Service or any other federal law enforcement? And he's like, pretty high. He's like, they love former professional athletes. I was like, really? I was like, I don't even have my college degree. He's like, well, there's a lot of places where you don't need it. I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, where are you looking? I said, the uniform division. He's like, and that's one of the places that you don't need the degree. I was like, oh, okay. All right. I guess I can give this a shot. And he's like, by the way, he's like, I'll write you a letter of recommendation. I was like, oh, okay, that's probably going to go a long way. And I didn't realize this, but he had sent this to his letter of recommendation to special agent in charge of the Philadelphia office because he had known him really well. And that had a lot of pull. So I spent the next year and a half going through their hiring process. So tons of interviews, exams, polygraph, background investigations, and then had gotten to like the second to last step and had been notified that I wasn't one of the finalists to be considered for the position. So that kind of stunk just because I was like, man, that would be a dream job. That would be awesome. So then I was like, man, what do I do? I had thought, man, you know what? I should join the Coast Guard. Like I'd always like if I hadn't gotten drafted or committed to Coastal, I was probably going to enlist in one of the armed forces. And I had in my head either Navy or Coast Guard. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And right before I signed to join the Coast Guard, Emily one day said, "Hey, I'm pregnant." I was like, "Oh, okay, that changes things."
It's crazy how
And
things happen, huh?
oh, I know. So then I was like, you know what, I need to just calm down. Like I had been running and gunning for the past 7.5 years from baseball to transition to the Secret Service. Then I was going to go away for basic training for the Coast Guard. And I was like, I need to cool it. Like I need to be here and spend some time and grow my family. So I had put all that to the side, gave up all those dreams, and honestly, it was the best decision of my life. Get to come home every day to Emily and Quinn. I know what I'm doing, and it's just been a blessing.
Yeah.
Just to
No,
be able
just a touch.
to be a dad and to be a husband, and I was done with the Zoom calls or with the FaceTime. Like I needed to be there. I needed, like you said, touch. Like I needed to be in the presence of my family members, in the family that I was growing, with Emily and Quinn. So, that's just kind of, post
Yeah.
baseball for a little bit.
No, I think, like I said, I think a lot of the stuff, just going back, a lot of the stuff you brought up, that grind, the being away, it's
Mhm.
another taxing thing. I always talk like the minor leagues it just kind of, drags you along because of the time you're away all the time.
Yeah.
That's a constant thing. You're constantly away, and you can the same thing that I can. The off season isn't the off season because you get done in August. It takes you about a month to like power down, and then you have about
Mhm.
3 months, and then they're texting you, "Oh, well, we're coming back." And I think, going back on that, I think that's another huge thing. That's just that timing, and kind of similar to you. That's what happened to me. I was 3 years in, 3 years in college, that whole thing where everything was baseball, and between summer leagues, it was, 5, 6 years of baseball all year round, and it burns you out, and it's
Yeah.
the thing is that the dream is there and the love of the game is there and the love of the field, but at some point you're like, I'm exhausted, or how am I supposed to live like this? I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. You brought it up for Emily, and the same thing, with me. I was like, this isn't sustainable. Like, what am I supposed to have, a family or have like a thing, and then every 7 months I'm gone, but you don't know what's
Yeah.
going to happen tomorrow. They can cut you, you can get hurt, and I think that's, just going into another point. I think that's one of the biggest things that I see in the minor leagues. And, you and me know tons of guys, they play, they have no contingency plan, and then they think they're all going to make the big leagues, and then they get done, and then it's poof.
Yeah.
They're not good people, that they don't like school, or they've never been,
Mhm.
or they just have no backups. And not that that's their fault, but I think it needs to be kind of announced a little bit better when you get drafted. Hey, like, make sure you have a plan. We believe in you and whatever, but make sure
Yeah.
there's kind of something, maybe an advisory board or something going on, just to help that out. Because I see it all the time. There's just guys that come out and, what are you doing now? I have no idea. Because
Yeah.
this was my
Yeah.
life and this is my dream, and now it's,
Mhm.
I'm done.
I was fortunate enough though that in my contract I actually and couldn't believe that this is something that they did, and they do this all the time. I just don't think a lot of guys know about it, but I have my full college education paid for by the New York Mets. So they had taken the tuition of where I was going to go to school and wrote that in my contract saying you can use up to this amount for tuition to finish your college education, which was absolutely amazing. Because even while I was playing for 2 years, after my second and third year, as soon as I got home from the season being over in September, I unpacked my baseball stuff, repacked a bag, and went out to Indiana University of Pennsylvania, which is about 3.5 hours from home. And I spent the fall semester there. So it was like I came home for a day and packed up my stuff and I was off. But for me, that was something. I had all my best friends were there, which was nice. But for me, that was something like it was so funny. Everybody be stressing. School this, school that, I have tests, blah, blah, blah. And I walked in there and I was like, this is a break. This is so easy. I was like, I'm not worried about anything. Like I went to class. Fortunately, I'm the type of learner that if I can see it, I'm good. If you try and tell me to read something and sit online and do it, I can't do it. But I would go to class, get a couple of pieces of homework done, study for an hour a week, and finished with like a 3.5. The two semesters I was there. And it was like, everybody else is stressing, man, I got so much work. I got to do this. I got to do that. And I was like, guys, this is the life.
You don't gotta take pop-ups at 7:45 in the morning and watch 18 hours of minor league baseball in the
you don't have
sun.
you don't have early work at 6 a.m. or a lift before a full lift before you have a practice, another practice, and a game.
And the 9 warm-ups.
Yeah, and the 9 warm-ups, the 9 active warm-ups. Oh my goodness.
God.
Yeah.
So just touching on, what we've been talking about, what do you think, what would you like to see change, both in minor league baseball and then maybe in, like the performance realm?
Yeah, I think like we had said before, I think helping guys come up with a contingency plan, because I don't know the numbers, and I think Ian had said it to me one. Actually, I shouldn't say I don't know the number. I think he said less than 3% of the guys who get drafted or sign actually have a career in the big leagues. So not counting the guys that are there for a couple of games or like a year. So I think the biggest thing is just helping guys come up with a contingency plan after baseball, because no matter what, there is an after baseball. Nobody's playing at the age of 60. Nobody's playing at the age of 50. Baseball is going to end, and you need to figure out what's going to happen afterwards, because for me, I kind of sat around and didn't really know what I was going to do for 3 to 6 months of my life. And if I would have maybe thought about that a little bit more while I was playing, it might have been an easier exit. But for me, yeah, from the day that I ended up getting released until March, I was just kind of no idea. So I think that that's a big thing. One thing that always got me fired up was I would spend all off season lifting crazy, lifting heavy. And I understand that the athletic trainer, or not the athletic trainer, I guess some of the head strength and conditioning coordinators, the reasoning behind this, but we would come into spring training, and in the first 3 to 4 weeks, we could only squat or pick up, we could only squat the bar or pick up 35-pound dumbbells. For me, I felt and Joe, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but for me, that felt like it was a regression. I understand we added baseball activity, but while I was in my training, I was doing a lot of baseball things. It's just I wasn't on my feet all day, but I was hitting a ton. I was taking fly balls. I was taking ground balls. I was doing agility work. My days weren't just go to the gym, lift up, pick up a couple of weights, and go home for the rest of the day. My days were wake up, go to the gym, work out from 8 to 10, go have lunch, go hit in the afternoon, and then go run in the evening. Like, it wasn't like I had a short day of like things, but and you know this, I don't, but that was one thing that I was always just a little frustrated with.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're getting into another point, and I agree with you. The problem is that they make everything cookie cutter. I mean, you've seen it,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it. You go in there and everybody does the same thing. I think one of my strengths with you guys, when I had you, when the season would break, is that I would talk to you about what would work for you. I would get in
Mm-hmm.
trouble a little bit, but that's the thing. I mean, you bring it up. The problem is that they write the workouts for everybody.
Yeah.
And this isn't everybody in the minor, every place. It's changed a lot since we've been there, and it's on a team basis with a lot of people I've talked about, but that is the problem. It's the problem all the way through. You bring guys in and everybody is trying to find the secret thing. The reason why we did the body weight stuff is because we had other people that did their stuff, but then there's that percentage of people that just show up and they don't do anything,
I remember
so
some of those
they're,
guys.
oh yeah, so you have that going on, but I don't think that that's enough of an excuse to regress everything you've been doing. I mean, we talk
Yeah.
about it all the time, right? It was there. You would work out all off season to lose it in spring training. That's a
Yeah. And
thing. That's the same.
I couldn't even get it to opening day.
Yeah,
Like, I would get to opening day and I would be exhausted because I had lost all my strength. I would lose weight. Like, because I would always for me, I'm the type of guy where I play the season, I'll drop 10, 15 pounds.
yep,
Like, I need to come into the season bulky, and then I know throughout the season I'm going to lose it, because for me, my metabolism is just on like sprint mode. And like, I would get in there and I would lose, like, I would look at food and still lose weight. Like, I couldn't control it. And for me, that was my biggest thing of, why take me from doing all this heavy weightlifting, or not even heavy, like just stuff that kept me in the shape that I needed to be in, and then tell me I had to come in and do body weight squats
yeah. No,
or
I mean, like I
body weight
said, man,
lunges.
it's a thing. But I mean, just they have fixed it. I mean, I've talked to a lot of guys in other places and
Mm-hmm.
with them, but it is a problem. Like I said, it's trying to kind of have one program for a machine, and it doesn't work. That you can't control 400 people. It doesn't
Yeah.
work. You can do everything you want. You can, I think, with COVID going on, from everybody I talk to, I think it's a little bit better because you're able to kind of keep an eye on everybody. But the
Mm-hmm.
same thing for me. I mean, I thought it would be a good thing for guys, because of the less volume, but now you see on TV, everybody's getting hurt. I mean, you can't make it
Yeah.
through 60 games. You can't make it through 30 games. Like, that's brutal. I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of, that's one of the shocks for me when everything happened, and crazy stuff going on. I was like, okay, well, at least I think it's going to be better for the guys. No spring training, less volume. They can't be in the weight room for more than like 35, 40 minutes, together. So
Yep.
there's not that aspect. They're not on the field for 15 hours, but guys are falling apart. I mean, the injuries are insane. The Yankees, the whole team is, on injured reserve. And, every time
Yeah.
you turn around, somebody else gets hurt. Gesellman just broke his rib yesterday, so I mean,
That's a deal move right there.
yeah, I'm curious yeah, but he didn't break it throwing a ball in from the outfield. So,
That's true. Yeah.
but I think it's like I said, I don't know where things are going to go, because every time, I talked about it with my friend the other day. The analytics stuff is great, all the information is great, but I feel like the more analytics we get, everybody gets worse. So what is the
Yeah.
point? I'm always one to say, if you do all this stuff, right? Like, if we had you come to spring training and squat, body weight, and do all this stuff, but you gained weight and you felt better, and then you'd be like, okay, this works, but now we have all these analytics, we have all this stuff, but guys aren't better. They're not lasting longer. They're getting hurt
Yes.
more and more. And I'm like, well, what's the point? Is it, what are we doing? Because you guys are what matter, not what we're doing. But if guys are getting hurt, then there's no, and the rehab's not better. So,
Mm-hmm.
I just, to me, it's always
Yeah.
like,
My biggest, like, I agree with some of the analytics. There's some that I don't, just because, like, I know what I need.
mhm.
Like, I know what my body needed to perform. Like, it's my body. Like, I know what I need to do every day in my life for me to feel good. Like things to make my body feel good, things that make me happy. Like I know that there like are things that I need to do. I don't want no computer telling me how to live my life and tell me, hey, this is better for you. No, that might not be better for me. It might be okay for somebody else, but for me, like I know what I need. I've lived in my body for the last 28 years of my life. Like I know what my body needs to be able to perform at the highest level, not a computer that enters in this data and spits out some crazy formula that spits out a result. Like
Yeah.
that's
Hmm.
for me, that's I don't agree with those types of things.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
it's
I think
cool. Like it's
it
cool
needs
that
to
we
be a
have those.
marriage. There needs to
What's
be, I think, both from you guys and the coaching staff. I think it needs
yeah,
to be, what do you need? Okay, well, this is what we want. So if this is what's working for you, then this is what we can do to make sure that you're getting out of it what we need out of you. I think that's what needs to happen. I think there needs to be
yeah.
more camaraderie.
And I and I don't mean to say this in a way like to be mean or anything, but I had the best relationships with guys that had been through it before. So whether it was coaches like that had played or had done other sports and known what the wear and tear is on the body compared to someone that came in and just started crunching numbers and was like, you need to do this, 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 and this to be successful. No, that that's not what I did before to get myself to where I am today. Like I understand, like you're trying to help me, like, but I know what has made me successful and what has gotten me here. And I want to stick to that because it's something that I know and I trust. And it's not some algorithm spitting out something for me to try and follow or try and do.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I think it's a good point. I think, it's you need to be, I've always said it, it's not that you have to play the sport, but you have to be there. You have to understand the volume. You have to understand it. You
mhm,
have to understand what it's like to travel for 80 games, 100 games. You have to understand, you know, the college season into summer ball and then coming and getting drafted, and I think
mhm,
that is, I mean, that goes for anything, finance, being a doctor, you have to get the experience, but also, everybody talks about it. You have to kind of already have been where you're going, if you will.
yeah,
You have to understand what everybody around you is going through, so then I can tell you what my opinion is, or what's going on. And I think that's a lost thing. You say it all the time. We've had coaches, I've worked with coaches, they just show up. They go to a school like, LSU, and everything is phenomenal. Then they come to minor leagues, and then I'm like, well, this guy can't do this. His knees broke. Oh, he's fine. And I'm like, wait a minute. You interned at LSU for 6 months. That's the only time you've been a strength
yeah,
coach, and now you're here and everything. So I think
yeah.
that's going to be a thing, and I think that's something that needs to be fixed. But you
Well, yeah,
know,
and it came down to like, and especially with all these injuries, I mean, even with for us, like there was no time to recover. Like, especially in the minor leagues, it was all right, got done with the 12 o'clock game. We are in, I don't know, Hagerstown, Maryland. We gotta make it back
nice
to Savannah.
place.
Yeah, yeah, great place. We gotta make it back to Savannah, Georgia to play a game tomorrow. It's like, so you're telling me I gotta sleep on a bus. Like
Yep.
I spent more time sleeping on an egg carton mattress pad on the floor underneath the seats than I did in a bed the last couple of years of my career. We had guys in hammocks. There were guys sleeping up in the luggage compartments. Like, and you're telling me that these guys we need to go and perform at our highest level. Like,
Yep.
no, it's not gonna
Minor leagues
happen.
ruined buses for me, and like middle of the road hotels. Like the smell used to remind me of vacation. Now I'm like,
Oh
oh God, are
man.
we on a road trip in Williamsport? And I'm like, no,
Yes,
no, it's okay. You're on
seriously.
vacation.
Yeah, whenever we lived in Kingsport, Tennessee, LaRue used to go in, check his hotel room bed. He'd pull back the sheets, would find a stain, see it, circle it in Sharpie, and then walk outside and chuck his sheets into the pool.
Oh my God. So many good times, man. So many good times.
Oh
So
man.
what's next, man? What's on the docket?
Yeah, just continuing to just love and live life, man. It's been such a blessing to be able to have a family. Here my parents are local, her parents are local, our brother and sister-in-law, like I said, are in the DC area. So everybody's close, and we get to spend time together, and just enjoy that. My dad's almost 70. Like it's getting to a point now where it's like, hey, I don't know like how much more time I have with him or have with him, like, and he's still able to do the things that he's able to do. So trying to make the most of that, and then also continue to move up in my career with the company that I'm with, which is an amazing company. There's like 25 of us, been growing like crazy. We build custom homes anywhere from like 500,000 to a couple $1 million for people. And it's just the quality work that we do is second to none, in my opinion. But yeah, great people all around. The owners of the company are absolutely amazing, and I couldn't be more thankful to be a part of the team
Yeah,
that I'm on.
I
So,
think that's, amazing, man. And I think you hit it there right on the head. This time, what's going on right now in the world is a time to appreciate the ones around you, your loved ones, your family,
mhm,
and to truly find out what you want to do and what makes you happy. For
yeah,
me, I have a podcast. As you've
yeah,
known me for a long time. I should have been doing this a while ago, but
12
it
years
was,
ago.
yeah, exactly. So, it was, a little bit of fear, a little bit of, I don't know what I'm going to say, but, I think that's the best thing that you brought up is, it's a time to really analyze what's going on, and decide what you want to do and what makes you happy and how you can provide, but also you can kind of enjoy yourself, and it's
Yeah,
not a time, you don't have to start a business, you don't have to invent a car, but I think
no,
it's a time in which you could say, okay, I don't like do this, or I hate doing this job. What do I like to do? And I've had
hmm,
countless conversations. People, what should I, what do you think I should do? And I said, look, I'm not going to explain to you what to do. I'm not that, I would never give that advice, but it's write down what you like to do. Write down
yeah,
all the things that make you happy. I said, and then start to narrow those things down into how can I make money out of this to support my family, right? Money
yeah,
doesn't matter, but you do need to support a family. You need income to live in the world. So, and that's the biggest thing. And I think you found that. And I think you hit it right on the head there, spending
yeah.
times
And
with loved
it's,
ones and being happy.
yep. And for us, it, like we had said at the beginning of this pandemic, they were like, all right, how are we going to make ourselves better? Like, what can we do? Like, Emily was staying home with Quinn, but she knew she wanted to go back to work. Um, but she's like, I don't want to go. She has 2 teaching degrees. She's like, I don't want to go back to be a teacher. Like, that's the last thing I want to do, especially now. So I ended up changing jobs, and now Emily is back in school to become a nurse. So we kind of looked at it like I was previously in finance and investing this, investing that, but we had decided, we need to invest in ourselves first and foremost, and in our relationship. So that's what we did. I mean, she was really thinking about going back to nursing school, and she was like, "Do you think it's possible?" And I was like, "Hey, let's look at it. Like, it doesn't hurt to look, like, and to
Mm-hmm.
see
Doesn't
what
hurt
it
to
would.
try. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt to try. Bingo. Yeah. So it was. We had decided, let's do this. Let's give this a shot. And so she started classes this past or the beginning of last month, and has been loving it. And I've been with my company for the past month, a little over a month now, and couldn't have asked for anything better. But this is not something I'm certain would have happened if we didn't take a step back, um, from everyday life to really reevaluate things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Yeah,
yeah.
no, man, I think that's wonderful, and I think that's an awesome way to end. Everybody out there listening, use this as a time to reevaluate.
Hmm.
This isn't, you read a lot of posts and things. This isn't a time, you don't have to invent something or come out of this, guns ablaze. Reevaluate what makes you happy, and you should have appreciation for what's going on because of, this can happen again, and I think that's an amazing point he brought up, and I'm happy he's doing well. Well, Joe, thank you, man. I appreciate it, bro. I really enjoyed the conversation, man. It was awesome, and we definitely have to do one again, and definitely
Absolutely.
have to come see you soon.
Yeah, we got to have a little reunion between me, you, Dale, LaRue. Deal and Matthew. That would be fun. We got to get together.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I've been talked to about it. We'll make it happen.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.